Tonight, you will get upset over something small. A late reply, a forgotten detail, a tone of voice that felt off. You will tell yourself you're overreacting. You will apologize for it before anyone even asks you to. But the real answer is far stranger than overreacting. Your anger was never about the text message. It was never about the forgotten plan or the missed call. Somewhere underneath it, your brain was running a much older program. One that has nothing to do with phones or schedules. One that is thousands of years old. You just didn't know it was running. Here's what actually happens. When someone you're emotionally close to seems distant, even for a moment, your brain doesn't read it as a minor inconvenience. It reads it as a threat. Not a physical threat, a relational one. Your nervous system treats emotional distance the same way it once treated being separated from the group on the savannah. Alone meant unsafe. Unseen meant unprotected. So when your partner takes 3 hours to text back, some ancient part of your brain isn't thinking about phones. It's asking a much older question. Am I still safe with this person? Do they still see me? That question rarely comes out as a question. It comes out as anger. In the 1950s, a British psychiatrist named John Bowlby was treating children who had been separated from their parents during the war. He noticed something strange. The children didn't just feel sad when reunited. Many of them felt furious. They would cling to a parent one moment and push them away the next. Bowlby called this protest behavior. It's the nervous system's way of saying, you left, and some part of me needs to make sure you never do that again. He built an entire theory around it. Attachment theory. The idea that your earliest bonds teach your brain what closeness should feel like and what it should fear. You weren't separated from a parent in a war, but your brain doesn't always know the difference between then and now. A delayed reply can trigger the same circuitry built for something much bigger. A few years later, a researcher named Mary Ainsworth tested this directly. She placed toddlers in a room with their mother, then had the mother leave briefly and return. She called it the strange situation. What she found changed how psychologists understood relationships forever. Some toddlers were calm when their mother left and calm when she came back, securely attached. Some grew distressed when she left and stayed distressed, even after she returned. Sometimes angry, sometimes resistant to comfort, anxiously attached. And some toddlers seemed to not react at all, but their heart rate measured quietly told a different story, avoidantly attached. The fear was still there. It just didn't show on their face. Here's the part that matters for you. Those same patterns don't disappear when you grow up. They just change costumes. The toddler who got angry when mom left becomes the adult who gets angry when a partner goes quiet. The anger isn't about the silence itself. It's a leftover alarm system, still wired to ask the same question it asked decades ago. Are you coming back? So if anger over small things isn't really about the small thing, what is it about? This is where it gets stranger. A psychologist named John Gottman spent decades studying couples in a lab he nicknamed the Love Lab. He didn't ask them what they thought about their relationships. He watched them argue, and he measured everything. Heart rate, facial expressions, the exact words they used. He found something almost nobody expected. The couples who stayed together weren't the ones who avoided conflict. They were the ones who repaired it well. And the couples who eventually split weren't destroyed by big betrayals as often as you'd think. They were worn down by something smaller, a pattern Gottman called negative affect reciprocity. One partner gets sharp. The other gets sharp back. Neither one backs down first. The irritation bounces between them, gaining speed, until a 5-minute disagreement about dishes becomes a referendum on the entire relationship. Notice what's happening there. The anger isn't really about the dishes. It almost never is. Underneath nearly every flash of anger in a relationship, there's a quieter emotion trying to get your attention. Hurt, fear, exhaustion, feeling unimportant. But those emotions are slow. They're vulnerable. They take effort to name out loud. Anger is fast. Anger is loud. Anger doesn't require you to admit that you feel small or scared or unseen. It just demands the floor. Psychologists sometimes call this a secondary emotion. The anger is real, but it's covering for something underneath it that feels far riskier to expose. Think about the last time you snapped at someone you love over something tiny. Was it really about the dish in the sink? Or was it about feeling like your effort goes unnoticed and the dish was simply the first proof you could point to? Your brain chose anger because anger felt safer than saying, I don't feel like I matter to you right now. This is not a flaw unique to one gender, despite what 1,000 internet jokes might suggest. It's a human wiring issue. Men experience it too, often expressed differently, sometimes through withdrawal instead of confrontation, which is its own kind of protest behavior. Quiet, but still an alarm going off. What differs isn't the wiring, it's the volume at which it's allowed to be expressed, and the way each person was taught, often as a child, that big feelings were either welcomed or punished. If you grew up in a home where anger got you noticed, your nervous system may have learned that anger is the fastest path to being seen. If you grew up in a home where anger got you shut down, you may have learned to swallow it instead, until it leaks out sideways as something else. Sarcasm, silence, a short temper over nothing at all. Either way, the target is rarely the real cause. Here's the modern mirror. You live in a world that moves faster than any relationship in human history was built for. A read receipt now tells you instantly that someone saw your message and chose not to answer yet. Your ancestors never had to interpret silence with that kind of precision. They didn't know, second by second, whether they'd been seen and ignored. You do. And your nervous system, still running code written for a much slower world, treats that information like a verdict. This is why a blue checkmark can ruin an afternoon. It's not the technology's fault. It's that the technology gave your ancient alarm system more data than it was ever designed to process calmly. So the next time you feel that fast, hot flash of anger over something that looks small from the outside, try asking yourself one question before you speak. What am I actually afraid of right now? Afraid that I don't matter as much as I thought. Afraid that I'm being taken for granted. Afraid that this is how it starts, the slow drift apart that nobody announces out loud. Naming the fear doesn't make the feeling disappear, but it does something more useful. It gives you a true sentence to say instead of a sharp one. Instead of, you never think about me, it becomes, I felt forgotten for a second, and I needed to tell you that. One of those sentences starts a fight. The other one starts a conversation. Tonight, you might still get upset over something small. That part of your brain isn't going anywhere. It's older than language, older than relationships as we define them now. But you don't have to overreact to a text message. You have to recognize what your anger has been trying to tell you all along. It was never about the message. It was always asking the same ancient question. Do you still see me?